Y'all best bet is be like, hey, bro, drop that with Jack, bro. I ain't laying down. Like, I'm gonna get that get back even if I get life. Trust me.
Yak didn't respond to Jackboy's trolling.
The long-running conflict between Kodak Black and Jackboy had already crossed a dangerous line, leaving one innocent woman dead. Now, the tension surrounding that feud appeared to be tightening again. New violence erupted, new rumors spread, and once again attention turned back to Jackboy. This time, fans began to question whether the fallout had escalated into something even more serious.
What's your favorite fast food?
Jack in a box.
Hell yeah. What's your go-to from there?
Just Jack in a box.
Oh shit.
Jack in a box. Jack in a box? Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I like how I sound.
Whispers started circulating that Jackboy may have sent shooters towards someone he once called a close friend. 2 men were shot in Kodak's neighborhood, and what happened next only added fuel to a situation already soaked in suspicion.
Oh.
So lit like a nigga touched my car. I ain't even touched this. That's fine.
Deputies from the sheriff's office responded to a shooting on the 1600 block of Northwest 10th Circle in Pompano Beach. When they arrived, they found 2 men suffering from gunshot wounds.
Brayton, that a crackhead went to the White House. Fuck you.
Both were rushed to the hospital, but one of them died before investigators could gather any information. By the time law enforcement secured the scene, the shooter was already gone. No weapon was recovered, no suspect was immediately identified, and there were no confirmed witnesses willing or able to explain what happened. Florida has no shortage of places known for violence, where tensions can turn deadly without warning. But Pompano Beach holds a specific weight in this story. This is where Kodak Black came up, where his roots run deep, and where loyalty and disrespect carry consequences.
That.
Connection alone was enough for fans to start pointing fingers.
Blackball me. Now you're smoking crack.
In their minds, the location mattered, and so did the timing. Shortly after the shooting, Jackboy took to Instagram. Instead of staying silent, he posted a news clip about the incident. Alongside it, he wrote that, even though people may not like him, it was still sad to see young men dying every other week. He followed that with remarks about getting CDLs, saying he had trucks and could put people on. On the surface, it sounded like concern. But in the middle of an active beef, nothing is taken at face value. Then Jackboy escalated the tone. He posted another Instagram story, this time featuring Kodak Black's own track, Before I Go. The lyrics repeated a chilling line about everybody dying before the rapper did.
I done told y'all I fucked with them. I done told y'all I did meth before. Hold me like the fuck, bro. I ain't in this shit, bro. I ain't around no cocaine or pussy.
Too many watching from the outside, the message felt intentional. Fans interpreted it as Jackboy letting Kodak and those around him know that he believed they would fall before he ever did. The timing of the post made it impossible to ignore. Despite the online reaction, there was still no evidence tying Jackboy directly to the Pompano Beach shooting. No arrest followed, no proof surfaced, and law enforcement did not publicly name him as a suspect. Still, the tension didn't fade. Jackboy had previously made it clear that he would rather spend life in prison than squash anything with Kodak, a statement that continued to circulate as the situation unfolded. Kodak Black did not directly respond to the trolling. Instead, he sent shots of his own while streaming with a man named Neon. Those moments only reinforced the idea that the conflict was far from over. Some fans thought Kodak sounded reckless, especially when he spoke openly about wanting Jackboy dead. Others pointed out that police already believed shooters had previously tried to kill Jackboy, allegedly hoping to gain clout by targeting someone tied to Kodak's name.
I'm being a fucking mess. I tried it though.
That belief traced back to an earlier incident in 2023. Jackboy had performed at a show in Sanford, Florida. After the event, he and his crew left in a Sprinter van. According to investigators, 6 vehicles filled with shooters were waiting nearby. Jackboy's van moved through the area, but the attackers made a deadly mistake. At the same time, a group of innocent women were traveling in a separate Sprinter van. The shooters opened fire, believing Jackboy was inside. He wasn't. Instead, they riddled the van with bullets, hitting 6 women who had nothing to do with the beef. One of them, Princess Tolliver, was killed. 5 of her friends were wounded. They had not attended Jackboy's concert. They were simply trying to get home. Law enforcement later arrested 13 men alleged to be associated with a Crip set from Seminole County known as On Top Forever, also called OTF. Kodak Black was never charged in connection with that case. According to police, the suspects had been watching the Kodak and Jackboy beef online and decided to insert themselves, believing that taking out Jackboy would earn them recognition. Instead, they left behind a dead woman, shattered families.
Can't come in my hood and dap nobody up. Nobody.
You don't think?
For what? Nobody. For
I feel like if Kodak goes to Brooklyn tomorrow, he's good.
maybe
he's
Brooklyn,
gonna be
but
celebrated.
he can't come to Bed-Stuy and chill. I wouldn't even. None of my friends wouldn't approve of that.
And a reminder of how quickly online conflicts can spill into irreversible real-world consequences. Rappers getting shot outside of concerts is unfortunately nothing new, but this situation felt different. This time it didn't look random, and it didn't look opportunistic. Someone appeared determined to take Jackboy out. Reports began circulating that shooters tried to catch him at his own residence, inside a gated community, a place meant to offer distance from street chaos. That detail alone made the incident feel calculated rather than impulsive. Rumors quickly spread that Jackboy's brother was hit during the attack and had to be rushed to the hospital by helicopter. Nothing was officially confirmed, but the story moved fast online. Not long after the incident, Jackboy went live on Instagram. Instead of sounding shaken, he mocked the shooters for missing him. His tone suggested confidence, but to many watching, it also confirmed just how serious the threat around him had become. After Jackboy's fans were shot in 2024, the tension between both sides seemed to cool down for a while. There were fewer public shots, fewer direct jabs, and less visible escalation. In January 2025, Jackboy posted a photo of Kodak Black's custom Jeep after spotting it. The message was clear without being spelled out. He was signaling that Kodak could still be reached, still touched, still watched. Kodak responded the very next day. He brushed it off publicly, saying he wasn't worried about anything. In his view, Jackboy hadn't actually done anything.
Go grind CDL. That shit, hey, yeah, driving, yeah, boy, that boy be driving for 4 days, boy, that boy never go to sleep, boy.
The Jeep hadn't been touched, and Kodak kept it moving like the moment didn't matter. Not long after, Kodak made headlines again, this time for visiting the White House. The visit carried real weight. Kodak Black had been sentenced to 4 years in prison back in 2019, but received a presidential pardon from Donald Trump in 2021. Being invited to the White House afterward was a symbolic win, especially for someone with a street background. It signaled status, survival, and influence beyond music. Jackboy didn't see it that way. Clowned Kodak publicly and called him a crackhead. It wasn't a one-off insult either. Jackboy had been calling Kodak a junkie for a long time. He claimed Kodak blackballed him in the industry and then spiraled into heavy drug use. The accusations hit harder because they weren't coming out of nowhere. Jackboy wasn't the only one questioning Kodak's behavior. In 2023, Kodak went viral during his Drink Champs interview, where many viewers felt he looked disoriented and unstable. A few months later, Kodak was arrested for cocaine possession, told fans the charge was fake, and insisted he was only sipping lean at the time. Even while denying the charge, Kodak admitted on live that he had tried meth before. He pushed back on being labeled a junkie, but the headlines kept coming.
Little does everybody know, when I got off stream with Kodak, he was regular. I don't know where the deodorant launch person went, but he was normal. I went to the studio, everything, till like 7 a.m. Normal, regular.
Not long after, he was caught on camera throwing rocks at a reporter who tried to ask him questions, adding to the growing perception that something was off. In May 2025, Kodak appeared on the radar and delivered a freestyle that raised eyebrows. He rapped about bodies, money, cars, and mansions, then slipped in a line referencing being flashy despite a meth habit. Whether it was metaphor or confession, it only intensified the scrutiny. By October 2025, Kodak went live again, saying he wasn't tweaking on meth, but admitted he had tried it before. During that same live session, Jackboy doubled down, once again calling Kodak a crackhead. But this time, he added another layer to the story. Jackboy claimed he had flown to Haiti to meet with a woo lady, referring to women associated with voodoo practices. According to him, that connection was part of why Kodak had fallen off. He implied spiritual interference, not just industry politics. Kodak's father is Haitian, and Kodak has referenced voodoo in his music before, including on the song Voodoo with Future, where he raps about praying to angels. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the claim added a darker, more unsettling dimension to a beef that had already spilled real blood. At this point, the conflict wasn't just about music or pride. It had grown into something layered with paranoia, public breakdowns, spiritual accusations, and a trail of violence that refused to stay contained. After Jackboy publicly claimed he was using voodoo against Kodak, he doubled down in the music, dropped a track titled Woo Lady, and the lyrics made it clear he was leaning into the narrative, instead of backing away from it. He rapped about darkness, isolation, and feeling trapped, saying the devil was stronger and questioning why he was still in hell. The tone wasn't playful. It sounded bitter, confrontational, and deliberate.
In person, bro, you gonna hold your head down.
You did no work.
Right now.
Have you ever stood out there and got in that car by yourself?
That's how I know you asked, because
Keep
you
it
got
real,
voodoo
fam.
in your corner.
In the same song, Jackboy dismissed the idea that he needed to seek out any woo lady at all, claiming his own grandmother practiced voodoo. He framed it as inherited power, something already in his blood, not something he had to borrow. Oh, whoa. He followed that with bars about hustling, glitches, and making money, blending street bravado with spiritual threats in a way that unsettled a lot of listeners. The song didn't stop there. Jackboy continued taking shots, warning people to stay focused and not get caught slipping. To fans, it sounded like he was layering messages, mixing street talk with superstition, letting Kodak know the pressure wasn't just coming from one direction. Around the same time, Jackboy aired Kodak out again, this time over music business decisions. Kodak had recently dropped a track with 6ix9ine in a move that shocked a lot of people. In the past, Kodak had spoken openly about hating snitches, so the collaboration didn't sit right with many fans. The backlash was immediate. Kodak was criticized heavily for even stepping into the studio with 6ix9ine in. Whack 100 later claimed that Kodak only did the feature because he was offered $1 million in a Rolls-Royce, framing it as a business move rather than a personal one. Jackboy didn't accept that explanation. In his raps, he said the money didn't matter. He mocked Kodak for acting tough while, in his view, making weak choices. Said that even $1 million couldn't erase the damage, arguing that no real street respect came from surrounding yourself with people he considered fake. To Jackboy, the collaboration was proof that Kodak had lost his footing, and he made sure to say it publicly. The criticism didn't stop with Jackboy. Another figure, an alleged Treyway affiliate named Billy Adu, had his own issues with 6ix9ine in the past. Years earlier, Billy Adu had allegedly tried to hunt 6ix9ine down with a gun. After Kodak's track with 6ix9ine dropped, Billy Adu went on No Jumper and claimed that Kodak was banned from Brooklyn. Whether symbolic or literal, the statement added another layer of fallout to the collaboration. Jackboy also took shots at Kodak for associating with Donald Trump. In his raps, he mocked the image, saying Kodak should check his surroundings and then tell Trump to free his friends. He acknowledged Kodak's money, but framed it as meaningless if it didn't come with loyalty or sense. The message stayed consistent. Jackboy was painting Kodak as disconnected from the street image he once represented. On another live stream, Jackboy escalated things further by accusing Kodak of snitching during a jail stint in 2018. According to Jackboy, while he was locked up and smoking weed on the cell block, Kodak told on him. Claimed Kodak was then moved into protective custody to keep him safe. No official records backed up the accusation, but once again, the claim spread fast and hardened opinions on both sides. Jackboy also said Kodak's music was falling off and told him he might as well get a CDL and start driving trucks. The insult hit harder because Jackboy's own career had slowed down too. Earlier in his run, Jackboy was pulling millions of views consistently. Almost every drop was doing numbers. But after the beef with Kodak took off, many of his newer tracks struggled to even cross 500,000 views. To his credit, Jackboy made a move outside of music. He invested in a restaurant to keep income flowing while streams dipped. But even that move turned chaotic. The restaurant, called Peer Peer, was coned with his associate Cliché Hill in Oakland. On paper, it looked like a smart pivot. In reality, the business was already struggling. The restaurant was more than a year behind on rent and close to shutting down. Then, on May 2nd, 2025, someone pulled up and opened fire into the building. 2 people were hit. Both survived, but the damage was severe. No suspect was identified, and no motive was confirmed. Still, rumors immediately tied the shooting back to the ongoing beef between Jackboy and Kodak. After the attack, Cliché Hill started a GoFundMe to raise money for repairs. Before the owners could relocate or stabilize the situation, someone returned and smashed several of the restaurant's windows with bricks. The message felt clear. Whatever was happening around Jackboy wasn't staying online, and it wasn't slowing down. The business shut its doors, adding another loss to a feud that kept expanding into every corner of real life. After the restaurant shut down, the situation only got worse. Jackboy and Cliché Hill were forced out by the landlord and later hit with a lawsuit from a restaurant company, which claimed they were owed more than $10,000 in unpaid rent and fees. What was supposed to be a smart business pivot ended in eviction, legal pressure, and public embarrassment. It became another visible sign that things were slipping. At this point, neither Jackboy nor Kodak Black appeared to be operating at their peak. Still, conflicting narratives started to surface. Some sources close to Kodak claimed he was really on drugs at all, and that his erratic behavior was exaggerated for the cameras. A streamer named Zoe, who linked up with Kodak in the studio, backed that idea. She said that when the cameras were off, Kodak acted completely different, calm and focused. Nothing like the image people were seeing online. Jackboy wasn't buying it. He continued claiming that Kodak's money was falling off. But almost immediately after those claims circulated, Kodak dropped nearly $800,000 on a new piece of jewelry. The purchase didn't silence critics, but it complicated the narrative. It suggested that even if Kodak's image looked shaky, his finances were still intact. Jackboy also questioned Kodak's street credibility. That argument spilled onto Instagram when Kodak got into it with a random user. The man accused Kodak of never putting in real work in the streets. The exchange didn't end there. The next day, videos surfaced showing that same man getting caught by other individuals and stomped out on camera. There was no evidence linking Kodak directly to the attack. Some sources claim the beating happened simply because the man was caught talking reckless in a neighborhood he didn't belong in. Still, the timing made people draw their own conclusions. The ongoing beef with Jackboy brought constant drama into Kodak's life, but it also looked like Kodak was trying to change his direction. He dropped a new song called How to Let Go, where he talked openly about stepping away from the streets. In the track, he reflected on the endless cycle of violence, rapping about young lives cut short and dreams turning into memories. The tone was noticeably different. It sounded like someone trying to distance himself from chaos without disrespecting where he came from. Even if Kodak was signaling growth, Jackboy wasn't anywhere near the same mindset. Jackboy claimed Kodak was the one who originally sparked their beef, but by this point, the anger had escalated far beyond the original trigger. Jackboy repeatedly said he was willing to take a life sentence before squashing the situation. Those weren't offhand comments. They were statements he stood on. With his restaurant closed and his music not hitting like it once did, Jackboy crashing out on Kodak became one of the few ways he stayed in the headlines. The conflict kept his name circulating, even as everything else slowed down. Kodak, for his part, stopped responding directly to Jackboy, but his attention shifted elsewhere. Kodak began taking shots at NBA YoungBoy. According to some accounts, the tension started while Kodak was locked up, when Jackboy allegedly blamed Kodak for igniting issues between himself and YoungBoy. In reality, Kodak was the one who fired the first shots. After YoungBoy came home and dropped a new album in 2025, Kodak went on Instagram and called it trash. The rivalry escalated in more theatrical ways. When YoungBoy performed in Miami, Kodak flew in by helicopter and threw a yacht party just outside the venue. Rumors followed that YoungBoy had hooked up with one of Kodak's ex-girlfriends, Mellorax, and allegedly gave her herpes. Kodak responded in music, rapping lines that mocked YoungBoy for spreading disease. YoungBoy never responded publicly. The situation never fully ignited. It looked unlikely that Kodak and YoungBoy would crash out over it. But the same couldn't be said for Kodak and Jackboy. By this point, bodies had already dropped in connection to their feud. Innocent people had been hurt. Businesses had been destroyed. Careers had stalled. Jackboy continued moving like he wanted all the smoke. With that kind of history already written, there was no clean exit left. Whatever happened next wouldn't start from zero. It would build on everything that had already gone wrong, and that made the outcome impossible to predict.